Islamophobia existed in premise before the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, but has increased by notoriety during the past decade. In recent months, ISIS has been responsible for the rise of anti-Muslim hatred, along with current political runners such as Donald Trump. Gregory Payne, the chairman of Communications Study at Emerson College, has more to say on the matter, as well as students who share their personal experiences with Islamophobic behavior.
Interesting because as well as Hussam al Ghuseibi and Prince Faisal started the Saudi American Exchange after 9/11. And this was meant to be a bridge between the people of Saudi Arabia and the United States, and to more or less form a bridge of peace and cooperation and dialogue. And at that time, what I found is that many people in the United States were attempting to, I think, use a lot of stereotypes and blame the entire religion as well as the entire country of Saudi Arabia for what happened in this tragedy. So I experienced that. I found people saying to me, I'm not sure why you would be sympathetic to a group of terrorists. And of course, I always would come back and say, well, does that mean that Timothy McVeigh in the state of Indiana is a group of terrorists because that's where he was from and he was a Christian, and yet he blew up the federal building in Oklahoma. So I've experienced it like that. The other thing that has bothered me a great deal in this campaign is that Donald Trump constantly is using what I would say hate speech. And he's basically said that there are times, especially after San Bernardino, that he would limit the availability and openness of American society, which is really a characteristic of what we're about, and that we should watch about Muslims coming into the United States. Because of that, as the chairman of the department that's the oldest at Emerson, one that's based on free speech, tolerance, and respect, I've pushed, as well as Mohammed Khalil and other people, for Emerson to have a very strong statement against hate speech and discrimination against Muslims, because Muslims, as well as Christians and Jews and Buddhists, as well as atheists, it really isn't about a religion. It's about people, and I just find that scapegoating in terms of anti-Muslim rhetoric to be a cheap way that really makes America less valued in terms of a democracy.
Personally haven't experienced it, and I haven't known anyone who has experienced it directly, but it's something that has come to my attention is that we're talking a lot about it in my courses here at Emerson as an undergrad, the fact that it happens and the fact that it's happening in Boston a lot, and it comes into the conversations whether it's directly related to what we're talking about in class or if it's like a more larger theme. And I think it's important that it's being discussed at all in the classroom.
So I've seen Muslim women walking before wearing the hijab, and other people calling them terrorists, maybe not to them, but to other people kind of behind their backs, thinking it's funny, making jokes about it, and it's always disturbing to see.
So, back home in Miami, I have this one friend, a Donald Trump supporter, but ever since about the Bush administration, he's always said that Muslims are terrible, Muslims are all terrorists, terrible people, and that they should be, well, he actually used the word exterminated. So there's that, and he's definitely gotten a lot more violent ever since Donald Trump announced his presidency.
So I have this facial hair going on, and I get ribs in my family at gatherings about, they call me Mohammed or a terrorist, and that, they see those as interchangeable, and I think that's problematic.
And I saw an example of Islamophobia on Facebook. The grandparent of a friend of mine shared an image that had pictures of some women wearing a hijab, and then a picture of somebody in a KKK, the pointy white hat with just the eye holes. And the caption was, if this is allowed, referencing the hijab, why is this not allowed, referencing the KKK uniform? And thankfully, my friend, being fairly intelligent, pointed that out to his grandparents how bad that was and said, you should take this off, this doesn't look good, this is racist, this is terrible. And I think eventually they did, but it goes to show that, especially I would say in older generations, xenophobia, especially Islamophobia, is still very present.
This is Christina Zolnerowitz reporting for Survive and Strive Boston, facing anti-Muslim hatred.
they were at my undergraduate school. We lived in the same dorm, and people used to slip notes under the door, basically calling them like derogatory terms for Muslims and like things that were unrelated to Muslims, like terrorists and some other things like sand monkey. And I remember how it used to affect them, and like we never really found out who did it, so kind of like drove them away from both our dorm and our school.